फौज में क्या है, you're given very clear-cut, brief instructions which are understood by, the lowest subordinates. I remember, when we used to go for exercises in Rajasthan as part of my unit, and I would always do crazy things. My CO would be kind of red hot at times, but I always stuck to my guns because I believed in what I was doing. I was convinced what I was doing was right. Daytime you have the time to rest and recoup. But in the domain that I had of training my men, I would make them perform tasks day and night, working 20 to 22 hours, not for 1 day or 2 days, but 4 days, 5 days, carry them to the edge of the cliff.
Okay.
But I could do that because if I made them work for 20 hours, I work for 24 hours too. If you ask any Fauji, and that which is the tenure you enjoyed the most, and invariably all of them will say the one that to a civilian gives the highest pressure, that is in an operational environment.
Hi, I'm Commander Girish Konkar. I'm an ex-Indian naval officer. I was in the Indian Navy for about 22 years. And in the Navy, I was a submariner.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Commander's Compass. On this episode, we have with us our favorite Commander Girish Konkar sir
Hello.
and a very dear friend of Commander Konkar, which is Colonel Mickey Oberoi.
Good morning.
Colonel Mickey Oberoi is a very special guest for us today because he is somebody who is an alumnus of the National Defense Academy. His life exemplifies a transition from decorated military service to a profound social mission, which will be one of the focal points of today's episode. Commissioned in 1982, Colonel Oberoi served with distinction in Operation Vijay and led the Indian Army across the sailing expeditions. After retiring in 2007, he successfully ventured into high tech floriculture before shifting his focus to his true passion, a humanitarian mission. As the founder of the Sant Ishwar Foundation and the creator of Ghar, he now dedicates his leadership empowering orphaned girls, women with disabilities, and the elderly. His vision is to help the vulnerable create fulfilling, purposeful lives and in turn impact others. This is going to be an episode which dedicates a lot of ideas, a lot of thoughts, and stories from both his army days as well as his work at Ghar. So, we're so happy to have you here.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here too.
Sir, you've spent many years of your life in the Indian Army and you've actively served in JNK, the Northeast, and other such challenging frontiers, including the battlefields, active battlefields. What is the single most important leadership lesson that has stayed with you through this journey?
I think it's undoubtedly a purpose, and a purpose encompasses a vision and an objective. फौज में क्या है, you're given very clear cut brief instructions which are understood by the lowest subordinates. Point 4375 को कल सुबह 0600 आज तक कैप्चर करना है. So it is that purpose, that clear objective, that clearly defined goal is what defines the army and what makes it the fighting machine it is. It's a very complex organization and there are lots of complex maneuvers that are taking place both on the operational front and side by side on the administrative and logistics front. And these can only be meshed and kind of geared and taken forward with very clear objectives, very clear goals, very clear purpose. And I think that's what defines, even if you look at leadership, it's all about a clear cut purpose. It's all about leading by example. It's all about integrity. It's all about very clear cut communications to your subordinates in the environment. And it's all about leading by example. I think if there's one distinct factor that I can attribute to, my personal self and what I think most Fauji's will attribute and what the army teaches you is leading by example. It has to be that way. You can't expect your men to be going into a volley of fire
Right.
unless you are there in front of them to take that first shot and be an example for them. You know, how do you expect Jawans to be taking shots on their chest when you're sitting behind and,
Yeah.
not being
Giving
there
the
in the front of
orders.
them? Yes. So I think it's all about leading by example. And simultaneously, as I always say, integrity. Because integrity, according to me, is a key value. It's not just about your financial integrity, which is obviously very important, but integrity is all about your intent, your purpose, your clarity of thought, carrying everybody along with you, the compassion, the kindness, the empathy that you have towards others, your subordinates, the environment. It all comes as a part and parcel of integrity. And I think leadership is a lot that has got to do with leading by example and about integrity. I remember, when we used to go for exercises in Rajasthan as part of my unit, and I would always do crazy things. My CEO would be kind of red hot at times, but I always stuck to my guns because I believed in what I was doing. I was convinced what I was doing was right. I would, push my subordinates, my men, to the outer limit of their, kind of performance
Okay.
or their existence, outer limit. Now, I'll give you an example. There were times when I would make them work for 4 to 5 days continuously with practically no sleep. Maybe just 2 hours, giving them off in a cycle of 24 hours.
And you are an engineer, so you have to maybe bridge laying or minefield laying, or that sort of a role is what you're talking about?
No, not the bridge laying and the mind flaying lane, because they are not carried over like this continuously non-stop. They'll only be carried out at night. Daytime, you have the time to rest and recoup. But in the domain that I had of training my men, I would make them perform tasks day and night, working 20 to 22 hours, not for 1 day or 2 days, but 4 days, 5 days, to carry them to the edge of the cliff.
Okay.
But I could do that because if I made them work for 20 hours, I work for 24 hours too. So if I had not worked harder than them and longer than them, obviously the men would not have taken it.
Right.
So it is always leading by example. You have to make them realize. I always say that.
And what was your rank at that time?
That time I was a company commander when I
company
had
commander. Okay. Small unit with you.
a sub-unit with me. So I had a little bit of flexibility, and luckily a number of times when we were out on exercises, my company was away. But when my CEO would come to know, he would be quite livid about it. But I said, sir, let me have my way. And because there were lots of crazy things that we did. And I think it's ultimately pushing your men to the outer limits, but to push them to the outer limits, you've got to push yourself even further to the outer limit. It's only then that man is going to fall in place and look up to you and follow you.
It's like they say that more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war.
Absolutely, absolutely. I remember, we did such crazy things. For example, navigation by stars. Now, in the deserts, there is a common problem that happens amongst officers is that, our tents are plonked at different places in the sand and absolute desert. There's not a blade of grass that is growing out there. And your officer's mess tent may be just 25 meters away. But at night, when it's a pitch dark night, it's happened many a time. It's a common parlance in the army where you get out of your tent to go to the officer's mess and you lose your way. And then the whole night you're spinning around searching for the officer's mess. So we, in those conditions, we did such challenging jobs of, I would teach my, subordinates, the Jawans and JCOs, how to navigate with stars. Now, since I've done sailing, and I have some idea about navigation with stars, so I would, over a few nights, teach them how to navigate with stars. And then actually make small groups of 10 men, maybe around 6, 7, 8 groups, have, different starting points for all of them and a common finish point maybe 7, 8 or 10 kilometers away.
Okay.
And this is absolute desert and select those patches where there's no village, no landmark, nothing. The reconnaissance used to be so perfect कि वहाँ कुछ भी नहीं होना चाहिए, just sand. And then, you select a pitch dark night, right? And where there's no humanity, there's no dog, there's no animal, there's no tree, there's no grass, just sand. And then give them a very challenging completion point, which may be 8 to 10 kilometers away. And believe me, I used to be worried too from inside, but and obviously make it into a competition ki jo pehle aayega, he's going to be number one. But you'll be surprised to know the extent to which our men are, they are brilliant. And we never had a case at all where a team got lost.
Wow.
You have officers who get lost from going from their tent to the officers' mess 20 meters away, but we never had cases of our troops getting lost over 8 to 10 kilometers just navigating by stars.
Just for the viewers saying why navigating by stars, some of you might say, wasn't there GPS? In the army, the GPS would have been by now compromised. It is not an Indian thing that we are using. Therefore, you cannot rely, and GPS may not work at that moment. So you have to go absolutely back into the basics. And that's what Colonel Oberoi is talking about, navigating by the stars.
वो टाइम तो जीपीएस था भी नहीं.
हाँ, GPS था ही नहीं उस time. GPS इन्वेंट नहीं हुआ था.
Invent नहीं हुआ था.
Satellite navigation, maybe if it is there, but GPS तो इन्वेंट ही नहीं हुआ था when you talk. Absolutely correct.
So I think, sir, the takeaway here is lead with purpose and lead by example.
And lead with basics.
Yes.
And the integrity, because I am a firm believer that subordinates are, they may be Jawans, they may be JCOs, but believe me, they are smart. They are able to recognize you as a person very quickly. I mean, we live in a false world if we think, we are showing a different part of ourselves to them. I think they are pretty smart in, recognizing
Absolutely.
us as human beings, our capabilities, our intentions, our integrity very quickly. And I believe that when your subordinates see that integrity in you, that becomes a motivation for them to follow you.
Absolutely. Very true.
Sir, one of the things that the army teaches you is living under pressure, thriving under pressure. So, how did it shape your decision making under pressure, and what can today's leaders or today's generation learn from it?
Well, I really don't know whether we live under pressure, because if you ask any Fauji, and that which is the tenure you enjoyed the most, and invariably all of them will say the one that to a civilian gives the highest pressure, that is in an operational environment. You can ask 100 Faujis ki sabse best tenure kaun sa tha, and wherever operations were there, the worst conditions, the worst climatic conditions, the adversarial conditions, terrorists, or action against the enemy, you'll invariably find that Faujis will say ki that was my best tenure. I've done lots of tenure in the valley, in J&K, and invariably I have the same answer, that where I found that the dangers are much more, your operational readiness has to be high. None of us felt any pressure because we are trained for that. So your training is such that you are kind of dying to be in that environment. There are so many people who volunteer to go to CHN. There are so many units that volunteer to go to CHN, which
It's
is
a matter of
minus
prestige at
55.
times.
Yeah.
It's a matter of prestige at times.
I mean, you're trained throughout your life, your entire, NDA, IMA days, all the training you do in your units is all oriented, geared towards ultimately that ultimate day of the battlefield. So in that battlefield, how can you feel the pressure? That's what you're trained for. And if you feel the pressure, it means there is something lacking in your training. So I believe that I've never felt any pressure in those environments. I mean, I have been shot at during Op Kargil. I never felt, हम तो हंस रहे थे जब, the bullets were firing. And यही सोचता है कि अगर उड़ना है तो एक झटके में जाना चाहिए. ऐसा नहीं कि हाथ कहीं गिर गया, पैर कहीं गिर गया. That is the only thought. But none of us was scared. From within, we were just kind of, ठीक है, I mean, this is what we are trained for. लग गया तो लग गया, नहीं लगा तो there, bad luck, good luck. Right? But I don't think there was any pressure we felt. Not at all. That's what NDA and IMA is all about. That's what all the training that we do is all about. So why should we feel any pressure? And how should it impact? See, when you are under pressure, your decision making may be impacted. But when you don't feel you're under pressure, your decision making is with an absolute clear mind. And you're focused on the objective or the target or the instructions or the directions that you've been given. So where is the pressure?
So I think training seems to be the key here, sir.
Absolutely. The basic training, ab initio training, is the one that makes a big difference when you grow senior in your rank, or even whatever your level in civil leadership also is. It's your basic training. And like they always say, the armed forces are organizations in constant training, waiting for some action. organizations outside are in constant action, waiting for some training. And they'll learn by making mistakes. But I think very well brought out by you about the key is how the armed forces train you in whether it's NDA, IMA, or the other services also.
Absolutely, because ultimately, see, we go through a selection process, right? UPSC exam तो सभी दे देते हैं, but the key is the services selection board, जो हमारे टाइम पर 5 दिन का होता था, now it's curtailed to 3 days. It is a set of such comprehensive tests. I remember when I finished my SSB, and I was lucky I got selected. And the chairperson of that SSB at that time, they used to be colonels, now they are brigadiers, and he addressed us, candidates who were selected. And he said, gentlemen, me and my officers who have put you through this process know more about you today than what your parents know about you. Because they carry out the MRI of your brain. Now, what they're really looking at is not your physical prowess or, in a group discussion, how aggressive and all that. They're not looking at that, which most of us think, मैं ज़्यादा बोलूँगा group discussion में, तो, I'll get better marks. No. What they're looking for is whether you have that potential to be a leader of the type that the army expects of you or the armed forces expects, right? That is what they're looking for. Whether you have the potential. That's all. I mean, we may not be leaders at that age, but whether we have the potential, because then the training shapes that potential and makes you a leader. But you must have that potential, to become a leader. And the job of the SSB is to assess and identify whether this candidate, he may be brilliant, he may be an IIT IM, but whether he has the potential to become a leader. And thereafter, our training process takes us over, whether it is horse riding, field games, the ragada, everything that we get, it's all oriented towards making a leader out of us.
You've been almost more than 22, 23, 4 years in the armed forces, been through multiple situations in the valley. Anything you'd like to talk about, things like vision, risk taking in your profile that you underwent?
Well, genetically, I'm an adventurer, right? And an adventure has got two components: risk and challenge. I thrive on risk and challenge. For me, it's what keeps me going. Everything that I've done in life is purely risk and challenge. That's what keeps me going. Plenty of incidences during my 25 and a half years of service in the army where I stepped out of the bounds, much to the dismay of my commanding officer, but luckily he always held my hand subsequently because we succeeded. Plenty of incidences were of risk taking and success at the end of that. But I'll point out one of them. I remember in 1995, my unit was in the valley, and my company was at a place called Eshmakam. Eshmakam is midway between Khanabal, right, and Pelgam.
Okay.
So we were about 26 kilometers short of Pelgam.
Okay.
Now, in 1995, it was the time when the Amarnath Yatra had to start off. Lakhs of yatris had accumulated at Jammu, but they were not being allowed to proceed to Srinagar, because to the valley, because right from Srinagar to Khanabal, the highway was under water. Unprecedented floods had taken place, right? And one day at 6 or 6:30 in the evening, I get a call from my sector commander. He was an armored corps chap and very fine officer, and he calls me up on radio. He says, Mickey, within half an hour, I want you to take your men, your company, to Pahalgam.
Okay.
There is a bridge has been washed away. That's the lifeline to the Amarnath Yatra. And there's another bridge, a Bailey bridge, and it is falling. And
Okay.
see what you can do. So I took my men out there, and luckily there's a wooden bridge which crosses the Lidder River.
Okay.
The Lidder River was in terrible spate.
Right.
You put your hand in it, you'll be swept away.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the flow of the water. And it was a very old, 150 years old bridge, which had been completely washed away. There was not a speck of it left, right?
Okay.
And just short of the golf course, on the left side, there was a double Bailey bridge, 90 feet span, which had been made. And that bridge was falling on the far side of the river. I just about managed to get my jonga across. right, the other side, and within I think about half an hour, that bridge fell down.
Okay.
So we had a situation where, one side on the golf course side, the bridge was up on the abutment, and the other side, the bridge had fallen about 20 feet to the water.
Okay.
And these were abutments which were made with stones,
Right.
boulders,
Yes.
Okay.
right? And it's a double Bailey bridge, which means two panels, right? And it had steel decking. Very old bridge, very sound. There was just no problem. It was not the main lifeline to Chandanwadi. The main lifeline was the bridge, which was the main bridge. That had been completely washed away. So we were on the other side, so we waited for a day or two, and my commanding officer was sitting at Avantipur with the bridge column, waiting for the water to subside.
Right.
Because he had the material for launching a new bridge, but, he couldn't come because the waters did not
Yes.
reside. And unprecedented floods here. 2 दिन के बाद I realized कि, lakhs of yatris are there at, Jammu. And something has to be done. And my CEO, knowing my nature, he's a very fine officer, a lot of patience with me, a guy like me, and he somehow sensed that Mickey is going to do something crazy.
Okay.
So he says, Mickey, you will not touch that bridge. So I said, yes, sir, because we were on communications on radio. So being the company commander, I had a chap, radio operator, who was always carrying the radio
Right.
on his back, But somehow, I looked at the larger picture, and, the Amarnath Yatra is a instant of national importance.
Yes.
Right? And somehow, I felt that flood waters may take another 10 days to recede, and, how can we, and more Yatris are accumulating at Jammu. And so the third day, I got hold of my men. I requested the sector commander, I said, give me some vehicles, and because we couldn't cross over, so we were
Right.
also isolated here. हमने सब कुछ ट्राई किया, रस्सी बांधा, but the bridge was so damn heavy, there was nothing that could be done. Then the only option I had was a crazy idea of moving a dozer, what in civil parlance we call a bulldozer. So we had a class 2 dozer, which is a big plant.
Yes.
So moving it firstly from Eshmakam to Pahalgam, that's 26 kilometers. It moves very slowly.
Right.
So you need a lot of protection.
Yeah.
So it took a long time, almost a day, for that dozer to reach out here. But when it reached out here, what initial plan I had, that from the far bank we should be able to pull the bridge. It's got a very powerful wrench, very, very powerful wrench, right? Was totally unsuccessful. The only option I had was to make the dozer cross the river.
Okay.
And the water was gushing like hell. I mean, you put your hand in it, you would have been swept away. And
Okay.
all ice water, absolutely chilled, right? And I still remember that NCO I had Naik Niranjan, right? And I told him, Niranjan, he's on the other side. I'm on this side, but we can't cross over. I said, Niranjan, kar sakta hai? He said, sir, aap bolo, karenge.
Acha.
You won't believe it. That dozer, and where the bridge was, the gap was 90 feet between the abutments. But immediately after the bridge, the waters were fanning out.
Correct. Yeah.
So he crossed Lidar River in those gushing waters, chill waters, maybe a width of about 130, 140 or 150 feet there. He got the dozer across.
Okay.
And I'm not exaggerating, right? No safety line. It was not possible.
Right.
Right? And when he was, all the time our hearts were thumping ki agar niche khadda hai na, no one can save him.
Right.
It was impossible. And, at the point where the dozer was the lowest in the water, the only thing that was visible was, the exhaust of the dozer is above the engine.
Right.
The exhaust and the head of this guy.
Okay.
The rest was all under the water, including the engine. Hats off to these chaps, with the engine also being underwater, it still runs. Right? Only the exhaust is on top. It's not like a vehicle exhaust ki piche se aata hai. So exhaust is in top. It's probably designed for that.
Correct. Yeah.
So all of us, like from inside,
Holding your breath.
holding our breath, huge risk. Because one thing was certain, that if something went wrong, I would have landed up in jail, court
Yeah.
martial and landed up. And my CEO, knowing that Mickey is crazy, so, he would keep warning me, Mickey, kuch karna nahi hai. And so that day in the morning, when I took a decision to do this, I told the radio operator, apna radio set ko off kar dena.
So there's no
It would be-
communication.
No
only.
communication.
So
It
nobody
would be difficult
does.
to lie to him in case his call comes in between. I hope you're not doing anything here. So when that dozer came across, it was like ecstasy.
Okay.
It was unimaginable that it could happen. Believe me, just the neck and the exhaust of the dozer was visible
That's
above
it.
the water and quite a distance from
Yeah.
us, right? So when it came across, then the wrench was there. It was a very, very powerful pulley. And then we used, it still took 3-4 hours, but it still, lots of permutations, combinations. You see, one thing I've learned in my life that whenever there's a purpose, failure is not an option. So
Right.
in my mind, failure was not an option. Whatever I've done in my life, where it's been driven by a purpose, it's with a very clear cut defining moment that failure is not an option.
Failure is
And I knew failure is not an option.
Right.
It took us about 3-4 hours, and around 7:38, when it had got dark, the bridge moved by 1 inch.
Okay.
Oh.
Right? It got lifted by 1 inch. And when it got lifted by 1 inch, I was sure that we would get it back. But we did another risky thing. What we realized that even with the dozer pulling in the bridge, it had to be lifted and then try to
Right.
got on top. The abutment had already fallen quite a bit down, right? So we had to remove those. Normally, a Bailey bridge has got wooden planks,
Planks,
right?
huh.
Right.
But here, since the bridge was being used by civilians for a very long time, so it had steel planks, and steel planks were very heavy.
Right.
Now, the only way I thought I could lighten the weight of the bridge was to remove
Remove
the
the
steel
steel
planks.
planks. Okay.
So we had some really daring, Jawans of my company. The josh was very high because
Yeah.
everybody was on that, adrenaline was flowing, mission was there, ki karna hai. Everybody realized the importance of what we were doing, that the whole yatra would have been jeopardized, if we had not got this going. So by tying our men, each volunteering to be the one in front, we could manage to remove quite a few of those,
Steel planks. Yeah.
And at around, I think, 7:38, the bridge moved by 1 inch, and then it took us another few more hours, and we got the bridge on top.
Okay.
Tera mera tha,
Huh.
but we got it on top, right?
But the Yatris could now cross over and.
No, we had
okay.
still more work to do. And so I remember before we started off, there was a lot of, I had two officers with me.
Okay, I'll just interject over here for the sake of the viewers. See, we all hear of a lot of stories of bullets flying and all that is the media covers all that. But such instances of what goes behind to make the yatra safe
Yes.
and to ensure it is unimaginable. The conditions must have been sub-zero probably.
Absolutely.
Sub-zero conditions, bitter, chill, and in that the unit to operate when it is beyond their call of duty. They could have easily said, "Okay, this is too much, the water is too fast, we can't do this," and it would have been accepted. But people like him risk not only their lives, their lives, at the cost. Like if we fail, there could be disastrous consequences for them personally. Hats off to you guys. Please continue.
So, before we started off, I had a very good company subadar, very good, gutsy chap. So he took it very well. But amongst my two officers, one of them, by 2IC, was hesitant, whereas the youngster was also full of josh because everybody understood the risk factors. They would we would all get court-martialed and packed off, in case something went wrong. So I was very clear before starting off. I got all my men together. I got the officers together. I said, whatever I'm doing is entirely at my risk. If something goes wrong, none of you are going to be blamed for it, and I will take it on head and shoulder in totality. Because it was my kind of stupid idea, if I put it that way, crazy idea. So obviously I couldn't straddle someone else with a punishment because of this thing. So I was very clear in my mind that this is just my doing, and if something goes wrong, I will take it on my chest completely, and no one else is going to be at fault. And then, when we got this bridge up and, we crossed over to the bridge, then next day we went to the PWD department, ya kuch tha, and we had to build the abutment.
Okay.
So we had to keep lifting the bridge inch by inch, packing it with more, big boulders.
Yeah.
And then we got this wire mesh from, the PWD, and we finally got the bridge up.
Oh.
And believe me, the people who set up those langars and all, for them, it was huge. Because everybody had given up that the yatra, because there is a very short window period for the yatra.
True.
Yes.
Right? And
15 days, 1 month.
very
I
short
think
window
that's it,
period, because of the climatic conditions and things like that. Yeah. So that was, and then when the bridge got up, the first vehicle that went across was mine. A Jonga at that time is what I had with me, and then the vehicle started flying. So the army became kind of heroes out there amongst the eyes of the civilians because.
True. Yeah.
But there was one more challenge, and that challenge was that uh, this alternate route that we took, after going about a couple of kilometers, the road had been washed away. There was a village there.
Right.
And for a stretch of about 80 to 100 meters stretch of road, which was not blacktop, which is underwater, and midway probably around 4 feet underwater. So obviously we got the bridge going, but there was no way for the yatris or the vehicle to cross that patch of road. So what was the solution? The only solution was that पत्थर डाल के वो पानी का road का level
Correct.
बढ़ाओ, and no shortage of boulders in that area, absolutely no shortage. So I sent my youngster, his name was Jazz. I said, go to Pelgam and open some shop, and whatever chocolates, Cadbury's, toffees, whatever he has, pay the guy. It's not free, and get sack full. So he brought a sack full of all those chocolates and sweets. So besides the maybe 80 to 100 men I had with me, we got hold of all the village children, maybe around 100 of them, छोटे से बड़े जितने भी बच्चे थे, and with that lure कि तुमको chocolates और टॉफी मिलने वाले हैं, तो पूरा दिन these small kids, जो छोटे छोटे बच्चे थे, छोटा छोटा पत्थर लेके आ रहे थे, whole day we spent just collecting and dumping stones in the water to raise the level of
riverbed.
this thing.
Road.
And once we raised the height of the road, that is when again my vehicle, the Jonga, was the first to cross over. So I think that tenure, that kind of stint that we did, that crazy thing that we did, it was kind of the larger purpose. That the Amarnath Yatra is a event of national significance, right?
Right.
And a lot of planning goes on. There are double cordons of security which are laid well in advance. The coordination, the planning starts off months in advance.
Correct.
Yes.
In the army, in the corps headquarters. And somehow we couldn't fail our countrymen who come from all over the country with that, ki Amarnath Yatra ka blessings ke liye humko aana hai. So we succeeded in that. And I remember that in the evening, finally, when the bridge was up and, we switched on the radio set. So my CEO, this booming voice came from the other side. And why the hell is your bloody radio set off the whole day? And I just told him, I said, sir,
The
the
bridge
bridge
is
is through. He says, what? I said, the bridge is through. So that was very, very satisfying. So this was an act which was executed in direct disobedience of orders.
But because the overall vision was at a higher level and it succeeded. So
It succeeded. Yeah. The consequences could have been negative, very harsh if it was the other way around. But as I said, like when you attempt these things, failure is not an option. You only do it to succeed. And as long as your kind of determination, your focus, your life and soul is put into it. Yeah, why
they
not?
always say, if your purpose is very high, that decides, and the value system is very high, then that determines the choices that you make, the decisions that you take, that comes into actions, and there are consequences. All that starts to put into place, starts off with and then you'll take risks because you're okay with the consequences.
Yeah,
Great,
absolutely,
great.
absolutely.
So you have a very interesting life journey. And after your retirement from the armed forces, you became an entrepreneur and started your own floriculture unit. So, what are the habits from the army that helped you succeed in this new life? And what are the traits or the qualities that you had to consciously unlearn?
I've always been an adventurer. And as I mentioned, adventure has got two components, risk and challenge. I thrive on it. So I always wanted to do something on my own, where I would throw the gauntlet to myself and I would pick it up myself. I have never competed with anybody in life. I have always competed only with my inner self. So when it was time, when I was quitting and things were good in the forge, and a lot of people asked me, "Ki aap kyun chhodna chahte ho?" So I always said that I want to do something on my own, and I've always felt that yearning to start giving back to society. But the first thing was to do something on my own. Now, getting into a boxing ring with 10 years of experience in boxing and fighting against an opponent who's got 10 years of experience and knocking him out gives a lot of satisfaction. But getting into a boxing ring with no experience of boxing and knocking out a guy with 10 years experience of boxing gives you a different high. So I belong to that pedigree, where I like to get into something with absolutely no knowledge, and then compete with yourself, not with anybody. And when you do that, when you compete with yourself, invariably you will emerge as the best. So I got into a high-tech floriculture unit. I had no clue about growing roses, and someone used the word fertigation, and I had to look up the dictionary. Fertigation का क्या मतलब होता है? I couldn't make out the difference between two varieties of flowers, even different, the normal ones that we use. But the challenge was, with I put everything at stake, because my pension was probably 15,000-20,000 rupees at that time, and I was taking loans which were more than gross, and everything, घर को stake पर डाल दिया, दाव पर डाल, everything was put at stake. Failure was not an option. I had no doubts in my mind that I would succeed, right? So with absolutely no knowledge, we could make my farm the best in that area, the best, and the highest in terms of reputation, the highest in terms of per capita revenue, per stem revenue,
Okay.
the highest in terms of profitability, the highest in terms of quality.
Okay.
So in every sense, my floriculture unit emerged as the best. But then after running it for many years, what I had to unlearn was, I wouldn't say too many things, because even when I was in the army, I had no, I mean, there was no barrier between me and my men. I've always looked at humans from the eyes of nature as equals.
Right.
So whether you are your religion or your caste or your creed or how much money you have in your pocket doesn't define me differentiating people, humans. Differentiate them based on their competency, on their hard work, on their commitment, on their expertise, on their knowledge, on their talent, but not on the how much money he has in his pocket. Maybe a child on the footpath, for me, they're as equal as children that we have at our home. I've always looked at people from that eyes. So even while I'm in the forge, I looked at my subordinates as equals. So you are working with labor from the absolute bottom of the pyramid.
Yes.
Absolute.
Yes.
Labor has got no loyalty, right? And so they may be with you today, tomorrow someone offers them 100 rupees extra, they may just vanish. But because of my nature of treating them as equals, right? So I had very high loyalty of labor, and even till date, though I'm not running the farm, even till date, right? So I had no hesitation of working with the labor as labor. In fact, you'll be surprised, the first 3 months, there was no holiday, no Sunday. I had a Maruti 800. I would drive 45 kilometers to the farm, leave in the morning at 6 or 6:30, come back at 11:30, 12 at night. The building was coming up, the polyhouses were coming up. And then when we did the plantation, I said, I have no clue about how to grow roses, and it's a commercial venture you're into. You got a big bank loan which you have paid, and I had liquidated everything, whatever money I had, investments, house ko bhi girvi par rakh ke humne pura kiya tha. So I just couldn't fail. So for the first 3 months, I worked as a labor. I would be in shorts, patka, and chappals. बाहर चप्पल को रख दिया, नंगे पैर अंदर जाके जो भी plantation, जो भी करना है, whatever the labor worked, I worked shoulder to shoulder with them as a labor.
Okay.
Right? So that taught me a number of things. Number one, that every task, how difficult or easy it is, and how much time it consumes.
Right.
Everything requires a skill. So it taught me that. And obviously, when you're working shoulder to shoulder with labor, you develop a very good bond with them.
Yes.
And that bond till today has lasted. So even though, my farm is being run by someone else, but, all the old labor, they keep calling up and, साहब आप कब आने वाले हो, फिर हम आपके साथ काम करेंगे. And some of them are with us in Ghar, right?
Yeah.
So I think that, and the labor recognizes it, because they may be poor, they may be absolutely bottom of the pyramid, they may be illiterate. But I think they are pretty smart when it comes to recognizing you as a human being, as a
Very
person.
true.
Right. Right.
And because they recognize, because I was there with them shoulder to shoulder, because the integrity was there. So that's the reason I used to, I was probably the only farm in that area which had people who were working for years together. You know, I had that loyalty of the
And
farm, I had the
how
trust.
many stems of flowers you used to produce at one time? How is the turnover recognized in the rose farm?
Yeah, ideally, there are some scales which are this thing, ki, so many per square meter should come
Okay.
out, and we were doing maybe a little lesser than that, but at that time, you see, floriculture was still at its nascent
Nascent
stage.
stage.
So everybody was still learning, but
This was
amongst,
about roughly 15 years, 20 years ago? How
yeah,
much? 15
around
years
15
ago.
years back. So I think we started the farm somewhere on the moment I retired. The first thing I did was, get the floriculture park. This thing.
Correct.
Now the advantage of the floriculture unit was twofold. First and foremost was that it fulfilled my desire of seeking a challenge, competing with yourself and making it the best. Right,
Right.
right. Money was not the criteria. I was not doing it for money. I was doing it just to satisfy my need
Right.
of being satisfied that I've done this here. And the second thing, which was an important criteria, and which was very much in my mind, when I was quitting the army, and I said कि पहले मैं एक entrepreneur बनूंगा और फिर मैं ये I'll start giving back to society,
Right.
was I got to deal with the lowest strata of society.
Yes.
And I realized that I was very naturally inclined towards poor people.
Right.
It wouldn't take me any effort to reach out to a poor person, and it was just natural for me to be inclined with poor people and their children. So I remember, if I say something which is a good, I think, kind of lesson for a lot of people. Whenever new labor used to come to our farm, at times, suppose I was not there, it would take at least 15, 20 days for the supervisors to get to
Know
remember the
them.
names of the labor. Normally, husband, wife, hote, they come in a jodi with their kids, they stay at the farm. It would take a long time for them to remember the names. But I was very particular. Like, suppose, I'm coming to the farm today and it's the first time I'm going to meet the labor. So a day earlier, I'll call the supervisor. I said, जो नया labor को hire किया है, what is the age of the man, his wife, what are their names, how old are their children, and what are their names. And I would memorize the names of the
Okay.
children and the husband and wife. And now I'm entering the farm for the first time. I go into a poly house and I see a lady working out there. And instead of saying, "Hey, तुम्हारा नाम क्या है?" I tell her, "Sunita, कैसे लग रहा है तुमको यहाँ?" Or if I see a child who's 10 years old and he's playing outside and I say, "Raju, खुश है यहाँ?" It instantly creates a
True.
relationship.
Absolutely.
Right? They are seeing me for the first time. I'm seeing them for the first time in my life, but I'm speaking to them with their names. And I
Makes
think
a
that's
huge
a
difference.
huge difference. And that's what I always tell people, even in Ghar, that the first thing you have to learn is the name.
Yes.
Because when you are addressing a person by name, you are instantly creating a relationship with that person. Right?
This brings me to a point where from your business you moved on and you've started a foundation called the Sant Ishwar Foundation and Ghar, which is an orphanage for girls. So what was the seed, what was the thought process to begin this new journey?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. So, many people ask that question to me, that who motivated you, who inspired you, what is it that made you suddenly change tack from one end to the other? I said, nothing. I said, I always say that nature molds each one of us differently. And that is the way I'm molded. I mean, I was 16 and a half years old when I stepped into the National Defense Academy. And I don't know why. No clue. Right? I used to say that time only, यार एक दिन मैं अनाथ आश्रम start करने वाला हूँ. Neither anybody inspired me, neither anybody motivated me, neither anybody told me, neither any incident took place in my life that propelled me to take that particular direction. Nothing. How it happened, why I started speaking about it, even I don't know. So I think some of us are just made that way.
Right.
And that's the way it happened. And ultimately, the floriculture unit was going well, so I had settled well, and the time had come for this. And that is the time. The thought never went away. There is you're growing in your career, your family, your attention gets diverted to your career, your family, but that thought of starting an orphanage never went away. And ultimately, when even the entrepreneurship was going fine, and it was time for me to again take tack to the final target which I had, or the final vision which I had, uh, there was hesitation because I said पैसा कहाँ से आएगा? It's a huge responsibility, and age was not on my side. I mean, I was not that young. There was resistance in my house, undoubtedly, because everybody thought it was a crazy idea and it was too old and it would involve a lot of investment. But there was a lot of conflict in my mind, and for about 3-4 months, my mind was saying it's crazy, just forget it, you can't do it. But my heart just kept on saying, this is what you're meant to do. So one day it's like that golf ball falling into the hole, it just fell, and I said, "Buddy, come what may, पैसा हो या नहीं हो, age हो या नहीं हो, करना है तो करना है, and failure is not an option."
Correct.
That was very clear, and I still remember the day I took that decision, because there was a lot of tussle in my mind. घर में भी जरा conflict था, and but the day it fell into place कि करना है, two things instantly came to my mind. First was sustainability.
Okay.
How do we create a system that it is sustainable, right? And obviously along with sustainability is the accountability. It should be creating systems that will ensure that even after I'm not there, it runs as well or if not better, right? And no one should be able to distort it or take advantage, and what was the original intent should not get diluted under any circumstances. And the second was succession, that what after me, because ultimately it's finding the right person who has that same dedication, the same passion, the same commitment, to carry forward the banner of Ghar. So the other two things, I think the first part of it, sustainability, we have come a long way, though we started off with nothing, and succession is that is the reason why for succession, made it a trust.
Okay.
Right, and instead of just me and my family members, I made it a trust where we could induct anybody from the public. A proper registered trust, so that when we find the right person who is able to take on that mantle, he or she should be able to shoulder and carry forward Ghar with that same dedication, compassion, and integrity as what we have been doing.
Sir, I think you are also a trustee at Ghar, so
Yeah.
you
So-
have also seen the work very closely,
Yeah,
and
amazing
I've,
work he's
yeah.
doing, and we'll give a little
Give-
bit of hand,
yes.
whatever we can, but majority he's the
Yeah.
one who absolutely, there's, I mean, you see now in that
Yes.
his drive, his passion, his absolute single-minded way of doing work, and it's, I mean, I'm sure he'll tell us
A little more. Yeah, we'll
amazing
go.
stuff about the girls that are there. So I think that's, we can, in the last, it's been 3.5 years now, almost maybe 4 years. I'm sure the girls have surprised you in many ways. Anything you'd like to talk about that?
I've always told you that institutions like Ghar is a very unique institution. They are born out of beliefs. This is not some big industrialist who's created a foundation and created an orphanage and is running it. No. This is an ordinary middle class person who's put everything at stake, to create an institution because of his strong beliefs. And I'm a person who's got very strong beliefs on equality and justice.
Okay.
I always say it. And I always look at humans from the eyes of nature that created us as equals. चाहे कोई बड़े इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट करोड़पति का बेटा हो या हमारे बच्चे हो या फुटपाथ का बच्चा हो, कोई फर्क नहीं है. There is no difference. The difference is only about opportunities. And institutions like Ghar are created out of strong beliefs, with also an intention that your beliefs should be ultimately reinforced. So when we have children who come from the lowest strata of society, many of the small kids we have are actually footpath children.
Yeah.
Studying in army public schools, and the good schools, they're getting the best. When these girls in turn one day become successful, realize their potential, become army officers, doctors, engineers, and the like, based on their potential, they are only going to reinforce our beliefs.
Yes.
That nature creates all of us as equals. The only thing that differentiates the haves and the have-nots is opportunities. I always say कि हम अपने बच्चों को विदेश में भेज सकते हैं पढ़ाई के लिए क्योंकि वी कैन अफोर्ड इट. हो सकता है आपके घर में जो मेड सर्वेंट काम करती है उसके बच्चे आपके बच्चे से भी ज्यादा लायक हैं. But can she think of sending them abroad for studies? She can't.
No.
When you go home, the children that you see on the street begging, believe me, there would be plenty amongst them whose IQ is more than all of us.
True.
But because they are born in that mold, in all probability, they will remain in that mold throughout their lives.
Yes.
And we have children like this who are from that background, who are brilliant. And had they not been with us, they would have probably just been stray at the street corners
Right.
for the rest of their lives. Yeah. So we're all equal. And that is what really drives you, you know, that the biggest, I should say, satisfaction I get in this entire thing is the relations with the children. You know, I always knew that I would be very close to the girls because I have never differentiated between a poor person's child and a rich person's child. I look at them with the same eyes, the same intent, the same, compassion or whatever it is. But even I had not anticipated that, the closeness, the bonding which I knew would be there with these kids would ultimately, grow into a relationship purely between that of a father and children. And that's what ultimately happened. So, I look at these girls in exactly the same way as I look as my own daughter. The same love, the same feelings, that same yearning, to make them climb the tallest mountains. I would say probably even more because our children get all these things by default, whereas you have children that come to us who are far, far, right the
Yeah.
bottom of the pyramid that come to us, and it's a what our children get by default, they don't.
No.
So there's a larger purpose, there's a larger drive that keeps you going of, making these girls realize their potential and reach the top of the mountain.
Yes.
And that is the beauty of Ghar. It's not just about looking after these kids and providing them shelter and clothing and nutrition and koi sarkari school mein education ke liye bhej diya. It's ultimately about each of these girls realizing she's loved, she's secure, she has a home,
Yes.
and she gets the motivation, the encouragement, the love, the care for her to realize her dreams. Because as I told Girish also once earlier, that my dream was that I want these children to dream. And when they dream, we provide them all the resources, the facilities, the encouragement, the motivation, the love, the care for them to realize their dreams.
Right.
Yes.
To
And when
achieve.
they realize their dreams, we realize our dream.
Correct.
So that is what Ghar is about. Ghar is not just about looking after children. Ghar is ultimately a pure family. Ghar is about equality. Ghar is about giving wings to making these girls' dreams firstly, and then giving them wings
Right.
for them to realize their dreams. And they will. I have no doubts in my mind. No doubts in my
So
mind.
can you just tell the viewers what all initiatives are taken by Ghar to be that different from, I suppose, any other orphanage as such, and how are we nurturing their dreams? And if you can just some specific examples. That you
Yeah,
can give.
see, ultimately, it's all about your mindset, right? And what I can, in a manner, speaking of myself, credit myself with is that I don't differentiate between poor people's children or poor children and rich people's children. I look at them with the same mindset. And I only look at it from the point that, the difference between them and us is just that one word, opportunities. So that's what we do. What really sets Ghar apart is the opportunities we give our children, besides the love and affection. Because opportunities is one part, you know, uh, which is the most secure place for a child in the world? His or her family.
Correct.
Yes.
Home.
Home.
So what we have done is that we have provided these girls their own family. So Ghar is not an orphanage in the true sense. Legally, it's an orphanage. Ghar is a pure home. It's a pure family. And whatever, our children get in a family, love and affection, encouragement, motivation, opportunities, all the facets to ensure their development, we provide to these girls. And because they come from a pedestal which is very, very low as compared to ours, that is the reason why there is much more we have to do,
True.
to ensure that they reach that level where our kids are, or
Yes.
our kids were at that age. So there's a lot more that we do. We give them a lot of exposure. I mean, my parents took us out on all Sundays. I think all of us do that, because whenever a child goes out, whether it's a picnic, a movie, a zoo, a relative, a South Indian restaurant, yeah,
Any
Chinese restaurant,
experience.
it's all part of absorption of knowledge.
It's a growing up.
It's a growing
That
up. It's
Yeah.
holistic development. It's like a child is like a sponge.
Yes.
You just keep accumulating whatever you see, and everything is new to them for the first time. These kids have missed out on that. So we have to, and it is that absorption of knowledge, the environment, which ultimately propels a child to be motivated. You get the point? So that's what we do out here. We find that, classrooms don't need to have four walls. So we make them explore the environment. We give them a tremendous amount of exposure. That exposure has got a pure intent to show them a new world, so that they want to become a part of that new world,
world.
Absolutely.
raise their aspirations. And that exposure has also got a very important component, that is education. And of course, the recreation part of it. So you name the defense establishment where we've not taken them. With Girish's help, we took them in October for 2 days to Bombay, to the naval dockyard. They were on a destroyer ship. They were inside the belly of a submarine. We took them out to sea from the Army yachting node. They spent the night at HBTC Marwe and Malad. First time they got to see a beach. We've taken them to the Air Force Station. They've had samosas below Sukhoi aircrafts, right? And below the wings of Sukhoi aircraft. They have had rides in tanks in the Armored Corps Center and School in Ahmednagar. NDA, AFMC, all these institutions, they have been a number of times. They have been to umpteen corporates, right? They have been to really high-end outlets, with the help of some of our very gracious and kind well-wishers, which even I cannot afford to go, right? So all that exposure is to create in them that yearning to become a part of that new world. Unless that yearning is there from within, हम किसी से कम नहीं है. That whatever be our background, we are not lesser than anybody else.
Yes.
And they're good dancers, amazing dancers, and now probably getting into acting. So you can tell about the acting this thing also.
So, we think and behave and love our children like any parent, right? And parents are entirely focused कि हमारे बच्चे successful होने चाहिए और अच्छे इंसान बनने चाहिए. So that is exactly what we do for our kids. So every girl must realize her potential, whether it is in one field or the other. So what we do is that we expose them to a lot of activities.
Okay.
You've seen them, you see them dance, you'll be amazed. And till about a year back, we had a volunteer teacher, but she's not coming for a year. So the girls learn dance on their own. We help by selecting the songs. They perform brilliantly. We've now got into theatre, where we've hired a professional team. So they carried out a proper audition. They recorded the delivery of dialogues by these girls, selected 13 girls, and now these sessions are going on. And ultimately, it's going to culminate in a 10 to 12 minutes play, right? Which is going to be at the professional level, which we want to enact during our Founders' Day. And my criteria was very clear. I said that, look, the play should be such, the script, the direction, the production, the delivery, the costumes, the sound, everything put together, that वो 10-12 मिनट के लिए जो audience उनको देख रहा है, if someone wants to go to the washroom also, they will hold on कि नहीं हमको miss नहीं करना है. They should be so mesmerized by what the kids are doing. So undoubtedly, when he took the audition also, there are kids that they have that natural talent. I mean, not all the kids have it, but अब ये जो 13 लड़कियों को select किया, they have it in them to be on stage. And after this, we want to bring them to that level where these platforms are there, where people stage their plays on various platforms in Pune, Bombay, Delhi, wherever it is. So we want to make our girls participate in these. Ultimately, it's a life skill. It's all about adding to their confidence, is adding to their holistic development. And if they have that potential, if they have that talent, it's the job of any parent to ensure that
You nurture the
we
parent.
nurture
Nurture
that
the
talent, and that's what we are doing. So whether it's dance, whether now we've working on a song, and that's going to be the next step, where our girls will sing that particular song. Someone is scripting it and composing it. So It's a process. Something or the other keeps coming up. कि ये भी करते हैं, ये भी करते हैं, ये भी करते हैं. Why not?
And some girls also surprise you academically also.
Oh yes,
So
we've
you want to give
we've had girls who have got 93%, 91%, 88%. You see, we are very particular. These girls come at any time. They are admitted through the Child Welfare Committee, which is a statutory body, and कोई August में आ जाएगी, कोई September में, कोई January में. So we have a school in Khadki, a very gracious principal, and she accepts our children mid-session. And then when the session gets over, we have a lot of tuition classes. We have a lot of tuition teachers after school. So we do a lot of brainstorming to find out which are the small girls who are capable to switch over from SSC to CBSE.
Okay.
So because it shouldn't be a punishment. I mean, ideally, I would like all the kids to go there, but I know that for some kids it'll be a punishment. They'll not be able to cope up. So then we select the girls and we put them in the army public school. And we've had girls who have done brilliantly well. And you'll be amazed to know that even amongst the girls who go to army public school, the smaller girls, many of them are the girls who are actually from the footpath.
Oh.
So that background, but they are brilliant. As I mentioned, that even children on the roadside would be many of them would be having IQs which are above normal. It's just opportunities. And all of them today aspire to become army officers and doctors and engineers and IS officers, police officers. And it's our job to provide them that encouragement, that love, that motivation, everything for them to realize their dreams.
Fantastic. Sir, do you have any message to today's leaders to build a much more service-oriented leadership through their careers and their ability to give back to the society as well?
That's a tough one. Well, the first thing I always feel is that qualities like leadership are inherent. It's only like the process that we go through, the services selection board, they're not looking at how academically brilliant you are. You may be a 95%, you still may not clear your SSB. Their job is to identify whether you have the potential to be a leader.
Yes.
So your academic brilliance is not a criteria for you to be a good leader. Like at my farm, if I just digress a little bit, I would always tell my labor that there are 3 qualities which are required for you to move to the next stage. That is, from a labor you become a assistant supervisor, then a supervisor, then a manager, right? I said the first is your integrity. You have to be honest. ऐसा नहीं कि जब सुपरवाइजर खड़ा है तो आप काम कर रहे हो, जैसे चला गया तो तंबाकू लगा के आपने टाइम वेस्ट करना शुरू किया. The first is that. The second is knowing the job. So knowing the job, everybody learns. It's high-tech cultivation, but some may take 3 months, some may take 6 months, but ultimately they all learn. And the third is your ability to take responsibility, right? So I had labor who were excellent in honesty, excellent in their work, but they did not have the ability to take on responsibility. So despite their excellence in their integrity in this thing, they could never go up the ladder and get to the next stage. So, and in the same sector, you find people who have started off as laborers or supervisors today driving much more fancier cars than what all of us drive, because they had those 3 things in them. And they've gone up. So that's what I believe. Ingredients for success are not just your, it's a very important thing is your ability to take responsibility, which means that if 10 people are given under you, you know how to carry those 10 people along with you. And the ability to take responsibility is directly related to leadership.
Correct.
Right? So, and it's in any venture, whether it is running an orphanage or whether it's running an industry or whatever it is. So ultimately, you see, a lot of management basically emanated from the army, right? All the Peter Drucker, it's all post First World War where all the management theory started off. But then just look back in life and find for thousands of years, n number of centuries, no one had democracies. It was always military leaders and military leaders who could motivate their armies to, march thousands of miles to conquer others, invade others. There's something in them that very thousands of people went in the snow or, in those terrible climatic conditions and harsh terrain conditions, walked all the way to invade
Yeah.
another
Enemy
country and
lands.
plunder. Yeah, something. So leadership in the army has always been there, and I'm a person who believes that management is what you are. Doing an MBA is just going to tell you what is sales, finance, and the nuances.
It
The
just gives you the
compartments,
knowledge part of it.
knowledge part of it. But ultimately, management is how you manage, and how you manage is basically a reflection of what you are as a person.
True.
If you are a person who's humane, if you're a person who's honest, if you're a person who's got integrity in him, your management style will be based on this. If you're a crook, your management style is going to be based on that.
Absolutely.
So management is exactly the way you are. If you are a humane person, you will look at your team, with that
The
angle.
humane eye. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't think. I mean, as he rightly said, it's just management is about teaching them other than what you are, whereas your management style is what you are. So I really don't think I have any advice to give to anybody, because if a person is a crook,
It will be a crook.
he'll be a crook. Whereas if a person, is considerate, he's compassionate, he's kind, he's got, high integrity, it will automatically show in his management style. He doesn't have to make an effort for it.
Right.
Like, I never made an effort to start the orphanage. It was just the way I am. It was a natural outflow of what I am from within. So that's what I believe, that, whether it's leadership or management, I think these are all a reflection of what you are from inside. That's it.
Right. This has been a fantastic episode. We've been through a great journey, right from his army days to the amazing work that Sir has been doing at Ghar. Thank you so much, Colonel Oberoi, for being here on the Commander's Compass. We are eternally grateful. Thank you so much. Thank you to all our viewers for watching this episode. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And also, if you want to find ways to help Ghar, please let us know in the comments below. We'll share the links with you. We'll take you there.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining in.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
having me
Colonel
over. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
Thank you
much.
so
Thank
much.
you.